We are back, folks. More injuries have rolled in, but with that, more names broke out and got on our fantasy radar. We've got pickup options at all positions. Here are your Week 9 waiver wire ads. Let's get into it. We'll begin with Will Levis at the QB position. We knew the Will Levis days were coming, but holy cow. When a team does start spending an increasing amount of draft capital on a quarterback, that is a telltale sign that there could be a change. So we had a feeling this was on the horizon. Malik Willis was taken in the third round last year, and Levis was the 33rd overall pick for this season. What we did not have any expectation of was a 4-touchdown debut where Will Levis brought DeAndre Hopkins back into his prime form. The guy looked poised. He was utilizing his pump fake a lot, and he wasn't scared to throw the ball down the field at all. Levis averaged 8.2 yards per attempt, and most importantly, he ignited this offense as a whole. He helped them score a season-high 28 points after they were really lackluster the first 7 weeks of the season. On the other side of things, we have a version of Derrick Henry that is seeing less volume than in years past, albeit he is getting more efficient. He's up to 4.4 yards per carry. Levis is hardly owned across the board, even after the waiver wire deadline for this week. And let's be honest, the value of a productive QB is rising by the second. Anthony Richardson's out for the season. Justin Fields is still down, and now we've lost Captain Kirk Cousins. Jump on this opportunity ASAP. Get Levis. At the very least, you will have some trade leverage. Gardner Minshew is another fill-in option who we have seen a bit more of a larger sample size from. Minshew, similar to Levis, is on a team that's probably going to lose somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 10 games this year. You already know that I have to say something about the game script when it comes to losing. You will see some more throw-heavy schemes, which is very QB friendly. And ironically enough, Minshew has lost every single game that he has cleared 300 yards through the air for. Not only does Minshew have one of the most quietly reliable receivers at his disposal in Michael Pittman Jr. at the wide receiver 1 spot in Indy, but Josh Downs has been going off as that secondary option. Jonathan Taylor's also back and has been relatively involved as a pass catcher. So we have a lot of variables working in Gardner Minshew's favor. This is also an NFL backup who the Colts are not afraid to give the keys to this offense to. He has cleared 40 passing attempts in 2 of the last 3 contests, so plenty of opportunity. The Amari DeMercado story is progressing nicely, but it's looking like this is more of a standard or half PPR move. I will be transparent with you folks. We talk a lot about availability, opportunity, and productivity on this channel. Those are the 3 categories in fantasy football that we really want to hone in on. Well, DeMercado is available, and the opportunity for reps came when James Conner went down. He has seen said reps. He saw 20 rushes last week, but productivity-wise, I mean, it's not bad, right? 4 yards per carry flat with a catch or 2 every single game isn't horrible. It's just not somebody in DeMercado who you'd be too eager to start in a 12-team standard PPR league. If we're talking super flex, if we're talking unique formats, if we're talking 14, 16, 18-team league, maybe. On the bright side, I do think Arizona has a better chance to win some games going forward if Kyler Murray ends up being the dynamic player he was when he left the game. Looking ahead at teams like Cleveland, Atlanta, and Houston on this team's schedule, there are chances. They might be ugly ball games, but there are chances, nonetheless, for the Cardinals to build a lead at some point. At that point, rely more on DeMercado and this game on the ground. Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to be one of those why the heck not pickups, right? More so of a stash. He's part of a Dolphins running back core that is changing by the week when it comes to availability for each player. Devon Achane is down with his injury for a little bit more. Raheem Mostert is 31 years of age, and again, heading into this season, he's only played 2 of 8 full years. And with Jeff Wilson Jr. back, he got a decent amount of usage in week 1. We saw 7 touches on 25% of snaps for someone who is working his way back into a larger workload. Now, again, this is kind of a wait-and-see pickup. I would not say that any of you should be going and starting Jeff Wilson going into week 9 against Kansas City, even though the Chiefs do allow 4.4 yards per carry. I will say that against a weaker front 7 of the Chiefs, if Wilson were to get somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 10 to 12 touches, his value may spike enough to the point where you don't have a stash option anymore. He could be gone. Get him now before it's too late. Josh Downs is a certified plug and play. This is somebody who's producing at a very high level and who honestly in most league formats I would be comfortable with starting right away. Downs is 26 targets ahead of the next favorite receiver on this team in Alec Pierce, and at times he's been more than just the decisive number 2 option on this Colts team. Again, he does sit just a bit behind Michael Pittman Jr. in overall targets. Downs has 4 consecutive games with at least 10 standard PPR points, and he has hit that mark in 5 of the last 6 games as well. Consistency is key, and Downs has plenty of it. The guy is seeing plenty of volume. He's had at least 8 targets in 4 of 8 games this season. This is his rookie year, by the way. The man is a dark horse rookie of the year candidate. Not leader, obviously, but candidate. He's in the conversation. I will say that Downs does have a tough matchup on the way this weekend. He's facing a Panthers secondary, allowing the 7th least amount of fantasy points to the position, partially because most teams get ahead of the Panthers and run the ball against them. Not the Texans, though. Shout out to the Panthers for getting their first win last week. Speaking of running the ball, we're another week into Jonathan Taylor's return, so expect him to get more and more reps as well. Quentin Johnston was a highly touted prospect out of college who didn't have the best of reports out of training camp, but now he has quite the golden opportunity with Mike Williams being sidelined for the season and now Joshua Palmer being banged up, battling injury. Johnston began to see some more touches against the Chicago Bears in what was essentially a blowout by the middle of the second half. Johnston saw a season-high 6 targets against Chicago and set a season-high mark in snaps as well at 70%. And he's also in a good offensive environment as well, considering that this Kellen Moore-led offense is in the top half of the NFL in total plays run and pass frequency as well. He's another stash player, but I see a lot of upside here with Quentin Johnston. From one rookie receiver to another, Jackson Smith-Njigba has been all over the headlines after his game-winning touchdown reception in Week 8. JSN is essentially third in a lot of receiving categories at the moment for this Seattle Seahawks team. He's third in targets, third in receptions, and third in red zone targets with 5 of those, but more and more have been coming as of late. However, he is working on gaining more of a trusted role in this offense. The bad news and the reason he doesn't have that trust yet is he leads all Seahawks wideouts with 4 drops at the moment. As a result, we're seeing him run some shorter routes, get some shorter receptions. He's actually the only qualified wide receiver on the team right now with under 10 yards per catch. But a great way to gain that trust is by playing hero, which he did last week. And Njigba has been a better producer in general in the last couple of matchups. He's averaging greater than 12 yards per reception in the last 3 weeks combined, and he has a touchdown in each of the last 2 contests. Not to mention, Tyler Lockett, the wide receiver 2 in Seattle right now, is 31 years old. At some point, we have to expect that this first-round selection in JSN is going to take some of that usage away from the veteran in Lockett. We dismissed Taysom Hill at the beginning of the 2023 campaign. I will be the first person to admit it. I was figuring that with a more stable QB situation than the alternating plan that we saw last year between Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, Hill would be taken out of the game plan a little bit more. Well, Derek Carr has looked below average for the Saints. Fantasy-wise, he's all right, actually, but for what the New Orleans Saints wants, we've seen a lot of checkdowns from Carr, not a whole lot of game-winning drives, and just not the results that this team was looking for. All of a sudden, we're seeing the New Orleans Swiss Army knife in Taysom Hill in for 50% of snaps in 3 of the last 5 matchups. I thought he'd be more of that specialty player that we see once in a blue moon. That is not the case. He had a season-high 11 touches last week against the Colts. But I will warn of a couple of things. If you're looking for a plug-and-play, monitor Taysom Hill this week, especially considering he is injured, showing up as questionable at the time of this recording. Second thing to watch out for is touchdown reliance. Taysom Hill has cleared 10 fantasy points just once this season without scoring a touchdown. The other 2 performances of over 10 fantasy points in standard PPR leagues have come with those touchdown scores. Regardless, with an uptick in usage for a man who is being treated as the cure for this sputtering Saints offense right now, I would consider Taysom a fringe top 10 tight end if completely healthy this week, and I do preface that. Thank you so much for watching, as always. If you have any fantasy football related questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you appreciate the content we're cranking out, and we will see you in the next video.